Chairman Mitchell Englander. I'm joined by my colleague, Councilmember Joe Buscaino. Today is Friday, February 8th, 2013. We've got several items on consent. No speaker cards. Is there anyone here for public comment? Feel free to fill out a speaker card. We don't have a quorum of the committee. I understand there's another member on their way. We'll go ahead and open public comment when that member arrives so we can adhere to the Brown Act on that. For items on consent, we'll go with 1, 2, and 3, 4, 6. Those are all grants. 7 on the expenditure plan. 8 with the DART donation. 9 the TASER donation. 10 Cameron Scope, and 11. We'll go ahead and hold 11 actually on the table. We'll hear that. So items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Councilmember, good morning, John White, City Clerk. On items 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7, you have CAO reports that have been submitted. Do you wish to approve those as part of your action? Also, on item number 3, the CAO has submitted a revised report. Do you wish to approve that?
Yes. And seeing no objection, that'll be the order. So if you're here on those items, those will be a consent. We'll make that a communication from the chair and reiterate it when we have a quorum. Why don't we go ahead then and jump into item 5.
Item 5, Board of Police Commissioners report and CAO report relative to extending resolution authorities for 3 positions in the LAPD for the Community-Oriented Policing Services 2011 Child Sexual Predator Program.
Morning.
Good morning, council members.
Good morning.
Janice Cheng Yu, Office of the CAO. The council approved the acceptance of this grant on January 31st, 2012. And originally, the intent was to hire or use existing officers to work on this program. However, the grantor came back and said that these positions have to be newly hired, entry-level sworn positions. And so we came back to you to recommend that 3 resolution authority positions for police officer to be authorized and the grant be extended to allow for the funding reimbursement for 2 years.
It's a 2-year or 3-year?
It's a 2-year. It's a 2-year program. The requirement is 2 years. The original timeline was from 2011 to 2013, though we estimate that with the hiring of the 3 new sworn officers, which is when the reimbursement for the positions would start, that we would request that the grant be extended to July 31st, 2015.
Got it. And what exactly are they going to be doing under the grant?
So actually, there will be existing positions that are actually currently working on the program, and what they're doing is working in partnership with the LA Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and the LAPD Registration and Enforcement and Compliance Team, REACT, to develop and implement new child sex crime control strategies. And the LAPD is here to tell you more about it.
And good morning. This is Commander Regina Scott, Information Technology Bureau. I apologize. We thought we would have an end user here from RHD, but of course they're working on the events today. But our REACT program, they really go after the 290 registrants for the sex offenders, make sure that they're in compliance, make sure that they're living where they're supposed to be living, and then any time that there is a violation, make sure that we do like vertical prosecutions to a full extension on those, and just make sure we make notifications to the surrounding communities if we feel that that's necessary. We have REACT. We have it in all the divisions, and then we have it a bureau kind of oversight, and then RHD kind of oversees the whole department.
Got it. Excellent. Okay. Terrific. Thank you. All right. If there's no objection from the committee, then we'll go ahead and approve that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No objection. Seeing none.
No
Okay,
objection.
so moved. Great. Thank you very much. I'm now joined by Councilmember Denizine.
Thank you, Rick.
So we have a quorum. We'll go ahead and open up officially public comment. We have no comment cards,
No, sir.
so then we'll go ahead and close public comment. And go ahead and hear item 11, please.
Item 11, City Attorney Report and Ordinance repealing Sections 41.70 and 41.70.3 of the LEMC and replacing Section 41.70 with language that conforms to the California Vehicle Code Section 22659.5 to permit the city to seize and impound vehicles used in the commission or attempted commission of pimping, pandering, illegal dumping of waste, or solicitation of prostitution. Pursuant to motion, Labange, Garcetti.
Good morning.
Good morning, council members. I'm Mike Nagel. I'm General Counsel for the Department of Transportation.
And I'm Sergeant Dominic Counts. I work out of Olympic area. I'm the OIC at the Vice Unit there.
We're here before you to introduce this ordinance. In 2008, the California Supreme Court the city of Stockton was sued, we were sued, and a number of other municipalities were sued based on our impound practice. The state now has rewritten the law. It was O'Connell versus City of Stockton. And so now we're just here today so that we can start impounding again by passing this ordinance, which complies with the requirements in the state vehicle code.
Okay, and this will be on all impounds or just relative to specific crimes?
Relative to the specific crime of solicitation, pimping, and waste dumping, and they're listed in the ordinance itself under the various sections. The way the law works and the way that Sacramento has set it up is that if somebody has been convicted of the same crime in the past 3 years, then we can impound the vehicle based on a valid arrest. We give them 2 days to notify the registered owner. The registered owner has 10 days to request a hearing. We give that hearing within 48 hours, excluding weekends.
And since this change in policy was actually just a change in definitions, I guess, on the ordinance and an update in the language,
Yes.
not really a change in any type of specific policy. Have we done any impounds on these particular crimes since the ruling, or has
I
it been?
believe it was suspended. I would have
Suspended?
to let the officer, this was before
We
my
have
time.
not, that I know of, impounded any vehicles pursuant to this ordinance for 30 days in these type of crimes.
Got it. And then as soon as the language is changed, this goes to council. We'll go ahead and schedule it for the next available council meeting, which will be, when can this get on the next agenda?
The soonest this could go to council would be Friday, February 15th.
And then I imagine that once it passes council, it'll take another 30 days of posting,
That's correct.
10 days for the mayor's signature as well. And then there'll be an order that goes out to the officers in the field.
That's correct.
Okay, so a good 60 days to see it take effect. All right, then seeing no objection.
We haven't done
question?
anything in the last 3 years then.
Did you have a question, Mr. Sutton?
I do.
Okay.
For the last 3 years, we haven't done anything.
I believe it's been suspended after
last
the
3
O'Connell
years.
decision.
Okay.
And the request came in, I was reviewing the vehicle code because Councilmember Labange had a problem in his district, and we were trying to see what we could do, and we discovered that we could go ahead if we passed and revised our municipal code.
Great, excellent, thank you. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This couldn't happen soon enough. I've dealt with these quality of life issues in my district, even more so as a police officer, as a senior lead officer. So thank you for your efforts and leadership on this. And I wish I had this ordinance in front of me when I came across folks who were illegally dumping, who were just impacting the quality of life in the district. Question is, in order for this ordinance and this impound to take effect, do we have to, the officers have to observe this crime in progress, or can it come from a witness or a surveillance camera? Because especially in Watts, we have a huge illegal dumping problem where we have a number of block captains, neighborhood watch groups who are taking down license plates. If we have a witness to the crime, would this ordinance stand if we get the information from the community? Or does the police officer have to catch the crime, have to catch these knuckleheads while in process of the crime?
I am not a criminal deputy, but I believe if people have witnessed it, have taken the license plate number down.
Right, if they've made a police report and they investigate it, and you have probable cause to arrest the person, I'm sure you can impound his vehicle then.
Okay.
But usually it's in the commission of the crime, that
Right.
you actually impound a person's vehicle. I can't imagine you go to someone's house with an arrest warrant and then take his car at the same time. Usually, like I said, it's in the commission of the actual crime itself.
It would lend itself more to waste dumping, what you're talking about, the actual pimping, or you would most likely have to observe that.
But for the illegal dumping component of it.
If there's video of it and
Yeah,
and an
right.
officer has the opportunity
Right.
to see the video, that would be as good, as long as the officer actually witnesses and sees the
And
video.
sometimes the registered owner would say, oh, this is, my cousin was driving the car. How would we handle that?
As long as we've got them, we can contact the registered owner. The registered owner then can request an impound hearing.
Hearing, okay.
The crime still occurred in his vehicle, or
Right,
her vehicle.
And Mr. Buscaino, I'd also suggest that you not loan your vehicle to your cousin. Allow illegal dumping.
Okay. I've heard that several times. I wasn't driving, it was my cousin.
I've got, Mr. Chair, I
It
got
wasn't
one.
me.
I got one issue.
All right, Mr. Zine.
There's the street services, they have a section that goes out after the dumpers. We need to make sure that they become aware of this change, that they're uniformed personnel, they go out there and do the enforcement. Make sure that they're aware, because this is one of their primary responsibilities, to do enforcement of that. So they'll have this tool to take the cars also. So if someone can make notification to them about this.
We will do that.
Thank you.
Great, excellent. Thank you for working on this as well. We'll look forward to this coming to council and
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
bringing this forward. Thank you very much.
Item 12.
Item 12.
Motion Buscaino, Englander, instructing the LA Fire Department to report relative to the circumstances surrounding the 15-minute response to the December 2012 Wilmington Middle School incident and determine what steps can be taken to prevent a similar delay.
Morning.
Good morning. Dave Yamahata, Deputy Chief, Los Angeles Fire Department. Back on December 16th, our dispatch center received a call for assistance regarding help on a soccer field. During this call, unfortunately, there was a challenge in identifying the correct address. As a result, appropriate resources were dispatched, but they were dispatched to the wrong address. Once it was corrected and appropriate resources were dispatched to the correct address, there was a delay in our response. The call took about 14 minutes. This incident is currently being investigated by our department, but what I'd like to do today is I brought in Captain Gigas from our dispatch center to kind of go over how a 911 cell phone call is taken, what the procedure is, what tools are available, some of the challenges that a call taker has in trying to multitask and taking a 911 call, and also discuss what actions our department has taken to try and prevent a similar action.
Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Before you have a question, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Buscaino, since he was the maker of the motion,
Well,
and it was his district as well. So,
It's a legal issue.
well, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Buscaino. Open this up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, colleagues, I brought this situation to the attention of this committee, and we were all troubled by this 911 incident, specifically in the Wilmington community, where the dispatcher was unable to locate the scene of this emergency in a timely manner when a young man was in need of medical attention at Wilmington Middle School, who later died and was in need of immediate medical attention. I've asked the fire department, I want to thank Ms. Chief Yamahata for coming today and to come before us and explain what they found so far in the investigation of the dispatcher's conduct in this situation, and what standards are in place to ensure that calls are responded to as quickly as possible, and how we can all learn from this incident and make the system better. And I had an opportunity to meet with Captain Gigas, a fine Greek, at the Metro Dispatch Center last week. And I want to thank the chair. I do know that this is a legal issue, and part of the motion was it's indicated that if we need to go into closed session, we need to respect the legal process. So, Mr. Chair, I asked for your guidance in this. If we want to go into closed session, I'm okay with that, so we can...
We do have the item scheduled for possible closed session. I too have some legal questions that I'd like to ask on the record. But prior to doing that, but in closed session, given the nature of the circumstances, but prior to do that, I think we can also still have somewhat of a public discussion that's critically important. This is a very serious incident, and it's a very unfortunate one. From the information that I've heard so far, both in the media and from the department directly, is that this was an isolated incident. This was a type of incident that appears to have some obvious errors that were made, just according to what the chief's statement was to the press. Just repeating those, that the department is taking this very, very seriously, as well as the city family. So first and foremost, our hearts go out to the family and ensure that this is never, ever repeated, obviously, in responding to these types of calls. And it's unbelievable the time nowadays that we can see something like this actually ever occur with technology where it's at. One of the things we were looking at as a city, and the department embraced, and I want to compliment the department for embracing and running with the idea of vehicle locator systems and trying to figure out how to at all times know exactly where the fleet is, ensuring that dispatchers can see the vehicles on screen on live maps. A lot of people have asked me about it offline and saying, it's not complicated. Our vehicles have them. I have one on my daughter's car, in fact. What's different with, if you go down this road, from my understanding, with emergency vehicles, it's not an off-the-shelf type system. You've got to have redundancies built in. You've got to ensure that if you are going to shift over to a type of deployment where you're going to be tracking vehicles for life-saving emergencies and those critical moments, and you're going to actually be relying then and shifting policies to deploy resources, you have to ensure that it's not going to fail, that the map is not going to be wrong, and so it's very different than sort of an off-the-shelf everyday GPS system or something you can put on a cell phone. And so I get that, and a lot of it has been explained to me in great detail from the department, which I truly appreciate, and I understand we're moving forward on looking into or deploying those, and if you can bring us up to date on where we're at with that as well, that'd be great.
Councilman, I think you're right on target. The systems that we use on our phones, and the most recent one you probably heard was Siri when Apple deployed its latest phone. We can't have that, and we do have a system ready to deploy. We had received some seed monies a couple of years back. We finished that integration, if you will, or partial integration to our dispatch system. It also provided us some GPS receivers to install in the fire trucks. Almost all of those are installed. We also got some software for the fire trucks themselves, 500 copies of some mapping software we can install. And we've developed a plan to fully implement it into the dispatch system down at Metro Fire Communications, as well as the backup OCD. Where we're at today, we've submitted that plan to the fire chief. It's approved. It identified two funding sources. One of them was a state GIS fund. That fund is specifically identified. It's one-time funding. Its purpose is to assist call takers with locating cellular 911 telephone calls. Those funds, that's all they can be used for. So they can't really be used for AVL. However, the additional funding we identified was through the current budget MICLA funds of $12 million for our new CAD, which had a component for AVL, which we think the system we've developed will meet. The system was designed to be complementary and integrated with the dispatcher operation, so the funds that we can leverage from the state and kind of combine the two pots of money to build a complete solution. So right now we have a response back from the state. They have committed to a portion of the funding we requested. We're in the process now of asking for reconsideration.
Excellent. So, thank you for that update as well. And with that, the refreshing, I guess you could say refreshing, thing in terms of just where we're at with the department. There's been certainly a lot of scrutiny, and what it's done is, though, it's opened an opportunity for change. And I want to compliment the chief as well, Brian Cummings, who I know couldn't be here this morning, but his representatives and you guys have really run with the idea of moving the department out of our current cutting-edge 1982 technology to update us with our CAD systems, with finding out all the holes and response times and those issues, and a lot of it being really not protocols, not necessarily, although there's probably some updates, and I know there are several things being looked at there as well. But most importantly, in the data response and the data itself having issues with updating all of our technology. And a lot of people don't realize that while we have the best fire department, bar none, I think, in the country, and the best trained men and women in the country that do an incredible job, you're only as good as the backbone as well. And a lot of the backbone is the technology. And the technology is antiquated, outdated. It has not been given the critical funding over the years that's necessary. There are a lot of departments that are well ahead of us. And the same thing with the police department. I mean, if you look at some of the computer systems, the technology in the black and whites, it's embarrassing, quite frankly. And so a lot of that being finally brought to the public's attention, I think will allow, even in tough financial times, to reprioritize our core functions and ensure that our firefighters and our police officers are given the best tools possibly in everything, the latest technology available, which will get away from any issues like this in the future and prevent it from happening. But I also want to hear about any human error that could have occurred. So with all of that and the liability, I think it would be appropriate to go ahead and adjourn into closed session so we can ask questions on where we are and with the investigation internally and what exactly happened here in terms of exposure to liability and et cetera. So we'll go ahead and do that if we could. So if you're not here on specifically representing the department on item 12, we'll ask you to go out of the room, and we'll go ahead and adjourn into closed session.
Just for the record, the Public Safety Committee will now recess into closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D, as in David, 2, to allow the committee to confer with its legal counsel on the matter that is agendized in item 12, as stated in the agenda. Mr. Chair, that there was no action taken.
There was no action, there was no action taken. We'll conclude, we'll bring the item back with request for additional information. Items 1 through 10, now that we had a quorum, we'll meet that and be sent to council with recommendations to adopt all those reports. And that'll conclude the meeting. Thank you.